What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers and what the future holds for him. We're going to unpack the entire situation for you and tell you what we think is the best option for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. All that and much more coming your way right now! Hey, Trash Talkers, it's Mike here. Over 93% of you who view our show each and every day are not subscribed to the channel. If you could hit that red subscribe button, it would help us out tremendously, and it is completely free for you guys. If you want to stay up to date with our daily content, then click that bell icon and you will be notified every time we go live. Nick and I both really appreciate you subscribing to the channel, and we can't wait to keep making more daily content for you. All right, Nick. Well, news broke earlier in the weekend that Aaron Rodgers was very unhappy with his situation in Green Bay. And it was kind of his FU to the Packers organization, stemming from what happened last year when they drafted his replacement in the first round in quarterback Jordan Love instead of getting him wide receiver or tight end or whatever other position that could have helped him, especially after an MVP season. He got just a few snaps away from actually being able to compete in the NFC Championship game, and you have to wonder if they had taken a receiver versus his replacement, would they have been able to go further? So I send it over to you and give your initial thoughts on this whole situation, and then we'll unpack it for everyone.
I mean, yeah, there's a couple ways you could look at it. Hey, if they go draft a wide receiver or a tight end in the first round last year, you could say, hey, the Packers actually have a shot against the Buccaneers in that NFC Championship game. They might actually win that and go to the Super Bowl and beat the Chiefs. Or you could look at it and say, hey, if they don't draft Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the fire under his butt to actually do better, be as good as he can be, and become MVP in the NFL for the third time in his career. So there's good and bad, but you've got to take it for what it is. What's done is done. And you don't know how any other situation would have played out. The way it did play out, though, Rodgers did become MVP, and his backup is already in-house. Now, he is still somehow feels threatened by Jordan Love. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me. He's one of the most feared quarterbacks in the NFL. He's somebody that multiple teams are trying to trade generations worth of picks for, essentially, and he is saying that I don't want to be here because I don't feel loved, and I feel threatened by this guy who has 1 year in the league and doesn't know as much as I do.
So let's take a look at the entire situation, right? So they drafted Jordan Love. They didn't get him wide receiver help. They get so close to the Super Bowl. He has an MVP season. As you know, we've gone through that. Then you take a look at the timing of this situation that transpired just last week. He dropped this information on Thursday evening, right before the first round of the NFL draft took place. So teams are in a tizzy trying to figure out, is Aaron Rodgers available? Should we trade picks to go get him? What is happening with the Packers? And the Packers were blindsided because Aaron Rodgers chose the timing perfectly. He decided that because at this time last year, they gave him the big FU in getting his replacement, that he was going to do the same and give them all they could handle on draft night and then some. So I take a look at everything that's going on, and Aaron Rodgers has already come out with that coveted list of teams that he's willing to go to. And I take a look at the teams that we have available. We have the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Giants. And Nick, you were hearing that the Cardinals could also be in the mix for him. I want to break down what this means for each of these teams and kind of how that would work. But starting with the Broncos, what are your thoughts here?
The Broncos are probably the best option for him. They offer a ton of talent on the offense. He gets the weapons he wants. He has a pretty solid offensive line in front of him, but nothing like he's used to in Green Bay. And then he has a defense that is on the up. They're looking good. They got some good draft picks, and so they have a ton of potential. Only downside is you're playing against Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert twice a year. So you've got some steady competition. You're now in the AFC, so it's uncharted territory for you. You've got to play teams you have played very few times in your career. So you're learning their systems, their schemes for the first time. And so do you want to be doing that at age 37 when you only have a few years left in your career?
Yeah, I take a look at the Broncos. I think they're the second best option on this list, actually, personally speaking, because I think they offer a ton of wide receiver help. I mean, just take a look at the weapons that they currently have. Noah Fant is at tight end. You have Jerry Judy, Cortland Sutton. You have Tim Patrick as your number three, who could be a number two or even one in other places. So you have plenty of depth on at the help positions, and also they have Melvin Gordon as their running back. They've figured out the offensive line pretty much. Now Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater needs to show if they can do it, and Aaron Rodgers, we know he can do it. It's just what they would give up for to get him, and I don't know if they currently have that on the roster, because you don't want to decimate the roster when also going after Aaron Rodgers. What I also want to take a look at, though, is my favorite team, if he were to get moved, the New York Giants. I mean, they have Daniel Jones. If you put Aaron Rodgers on a team with Kenny Galladay, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, and Kadarius Toney, with Evan Ingram at tight end and Saquon Barkley behind him, that offensive line that they have in front of him, and Joe Judge being the head coach, sheesh, there is nothing that is going to stop that team. I only injuries can stop them, honestly. And at this point, I think the Giants would make a ton of sense. The problem is, again, do the Packers want to send Aaron Rodgers to a ready-made team where he can automatically compete for a Super Bowl in the NFC, while they're going to have to continue grooming Jordan Love? They're going to have to start rebuilding the roster a little bit. I don't know if they're willing to do any of that.
Yeah, it's going to be something to be seen. And like you said, with the Raiders and the Broncos, we don't know what they're going to have to give up. So is it going to cost them Kenny Galladay, somebody they just signed? Is it going to cost them Kadarius Toney, a player they just acquired in the draft? Is it going to cost them some of their big defensive pieces that are their pillars moving forward? So any team that Aaron Rodgers could be traded to, it's going to hurt them a little bit in one way or another. So you can't really look at that, but Aaron Rodgers can go to any team and make them a Super Bowl contender. He really can. He's done it with the Packers and had very little weapons around him. Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones are studs in their own right, but he's also made guys like Alan Lazard and Robert Tonyan look like viable weapons. Then he can go to any team and make their weapons look just as good, if not better. So Aaron Rodgers really could fit with any one of these teams. It just depends on how much a team's willing to give up and whether the Packers are even willing to deal him at this point. We already saw the 49ers tried to reach out to the Packers on last Wednesday, right before the draft started, and said, what's the going rate for Aaron Rodgers? And they had no answer for him. They said, we're not willing to deal him right now, and that's where it ended. Now, there were reports, I'm not saying they're factual, but they were saying they were going to give up the third overall pick plus Jimmy Garoppolo and some other players and maybe a couple other picks, which is a massive amount to pay for a guy who only has a few years left in his career. So then you're saying if you're trading for this guy, you're ready to win now and you're in your championship window. And that's where the Cardinals come into play for me. The Cardinals are a team that a lot of people think are a sneaky one because you just acquired J.J. Watt. You're acquiring pieces in the draft that are going to help you fix holes and help you win now. So now why not get the final piece at quarterback? Kyler Murray is great, but he's still learning. He's still growing as a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is at the height of his career, and he could go to this team with more weapons than he's ever had before and perform lights out. He would be they would be the team to beat at that point. And so the Cardinals could make a strong push for Aaron Rodgers, trading Kyler Murray to the Packers in a pretty seamless trade, and they would become the number one team in the NFC over the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see why Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals would want to move on from Kyler Murray. You talk about their championship window being a couple of years and lining up with Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to say that with Kyler Murray, their championship window is much bigger than that. I mean, you can talk about JJ Watt, but they'll be able to replace him and he'll be able to turn other players on this roster into better players simply from being in that room and sharing knowledge with them. So I kind of get where you're coming from. I don't think it's a realistic option. And the biggest part here is that Aaron Rodgers does not have a no trade clause. I mean, he has literally zero say in where he gets traded if the Packers do choose to move on from him. Now, the question remains, is Aaron Rodgers willing to come back to the Green Bay Packers and end his career like he should be with the team that drafted him? There is a chance, yes. The only issue is that Aaron Rodgers has already floated the idea out there that the only way he comes back to the Packers is if the Packers president and CEO, Mark Murphy, if Mark Murphy fires GM Brian Gutekunst and rids the team of him, then he will come back as their starting quarterback and they'll be able to move forward. But not until Brian Gutekunst is fired will Aaron Rodgers be back.
That's a tough ask of any president and CEO, because that means you've got to let go somebody who's been in your organization for over 20 years, to a guy who's going to be on your roster for another couple of years. And you know what? At the end of the day, you're going to end up having to do what your quarterback wants, because he is not only your starting quarterback, but he's a huge leader on the team, and he is the reason that you guys have been in deep playoff pushes for the last decade or so. And you are gonna in order for you to keep your job, the only way you keep your job is if your team is winning. So it sucks for Brian Gutekunst, but his tenure with the team might end up coming to an end if Aaron Rodgers gets his way, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem like a guy who budges from what he wants. He's a guy who ends up getting what he wants in the end. And so Gutekunst is looking like he'll be on the outs very quickly.
And then just one last question. We take a look at the way the Packers are founded, how they are operated, and they are the only NFL team without an owner. They are publicly traded. You can buy stock into the Green Bay Packers. So my question becomes, if they had an owner, if they had somebody who physically owned the team, wrote the checks and did everything that they needed, um, would this situation have gotten to where it is? Because my mind takes me back to when Bill Belichick was trying to trade Tom Brady or get rid of Tom Brady and move on with Jimmy Garoppolo. Robert Kraft ended up stepping in and said, absolutely not. Garoppolo's going to be the one that goes. Jimmy G goes to San Francisco. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, they win a Super Bowl, but then Tom Brady ends up leaving. We all know the story there. My mind just goes to the fact that because they don't have an actual owner, a physical presence that writes the checks for them, that holds the money, that they don't have the leadership at the top, and that's what has allowed Aaron Rodgers to kind of unravel a little bit here. I just want your thoughts on that prospect.
I don't really believe that not having an owner in the structure is the reason why Aaron Rodgers is making these moves, why he's acting this way. This is just Aaron Rodgers. This is his personality. He's always been this way, and he's never deviated from it. He's always going to be this guy that puts himself first. He's better than everybody else, and he's a playboy. He is a guy who's going to do what he wants when he wants. So no owner is going to change how he operates. Tom Brady wasn't changed by how Robert Kraft operated. These guys just have a mindset, and people rub off on you for sure, but your core values are never going to change, especially when you're in your late 30s. No one's going to change you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough for me, but on a side note, on a personal note for me, I can't stand Aaron Rodgers as a person because his demeanor and his just overall lack of, caring about anything but himself really just irks the absolute hell out of me because when you're the quarterback, you are the leader in the locker room, you are the leader and the face of the franchise, and for you to be acting like a petulant child at 37 years old. And granted, he's done it his entire career, so it doesn't shock me in any way, shape, or form. I think Aaron Rodgers needs a reality check, and the problem is that he's a little princess and he keeps getting and getting and getting and doesn't really nobody can put him in check, and that's the problem. There's nobody there to really say you need to simmer down or you're going to be done, because if he leaves football, the possibility is that he could end up hosting Jeopardy and he could just continue riding his charisma and his all about me mentality and take over a job that is so highly coveted.
I mean, part of being an elite quarterback in the NFL is having uber confidence in yourself. You need to be all about you. And you know what? If he's not going to act that way, then he's not going to play as well as he does. So, with every good, there's always some bad to it. And this is the bad that the Packers have to deal with. And he decides he wants to put it in the media, put it out in public, and it may not be the best way about going about it, but it's his way about doing it. He's clearly upset with the team, and there's reasons to be upset with the team after not helping him out in specific ways. I believe that he should have taken a different route, but in the end, I do agree that he should that he had a reason to be upset with the front office.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, and definitely a lot of things that we'll have to kind of wait and see. But we'll break it down as more information comes out and as things start to unfold. But thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.